The soft hum of the education ship's engines mixed with Professor Thane's deep voice as he spoke about dead worlds and lost civilizations. Alex sat in the back row, sketching absent patterns in their notebook, while half listening to the same lecture they had heard dozens of times before. Around them, students from various alien species took careful notes about the tragic fate of Earth, humanity's birth world that had supposedly died 300 years ago. The ecological collapse happened quickly, Professor Thane continued, his forearms gesturing dramatically at the holographic display showing a brown, lifeless planet. Within 50 years, the humans had poisoned their own atmosphere beyond repair. Those who escaped became refugees, scattered across the galaxy in small groups, forever separated from their dead homeworld. Alex looked up from their doodles, something nagging at the back of their mind. They had heard this story countless times, throughout their education aboard the Horizon's Edge. But today, something felt different. Maybe it was the dream they had last night about green grass and blue skies, or maybe it was the way their heart ached whenever they looked at the images of dead Earth. A student from the aquatic Deltan species raised a webbed hand. "Professor, how many human refugee colonies exist today?" "Approximately 47 confirmed settlements," Thane replied smoothly. "Each one struggling to maintain their population and culture without their ancestral home." Alex's hand shot up before they could stop themselves. The professor's large, dark eyes focused on them with mild annoyance. Thane had always seemed uncomfortable around Alex, though they had never understood why. "Yes, Alex?" "Professor, if Earth died 300 years ago, and all humans come from refugee colonies..." Alex paused, suddenly aware that the entire classroom had gone silent. "Then where am I from?" The question hung in the air like a physical thing. Students turned to stare at Alex, their various alien features showing confusion and curiosity. Professor Thane's forearms went still, and for a moment, his usually confident demeanor faltered. "I'm sorry. What do you mean?" Thane asked, his voice carefully controlled. Alex felt heat rise in their cheeks but pressed on. "I mean, I don't remember coming from any colony. I don't have any family records or refugee documentation. I just appeared here when I was little. The administrators told me I was found as an infant, but they never said where." The silence stretched longer. Alex noticed that several faculty members who had been observing the class from the back of the room were now whispering urgently among themselves. One of them, Dr. Webb from the psychology department, was typing rapidly on a small device. "Well," Professor Thane said finally, clearing his throat, "there are many explanations for incomplete records. The refugee settlements often lose documentation during their difficult journeys. I'm sure your origins can be traced back to one of the established human colonies." "But which one?" Alex persisted. "I've looked through all the colony registries available to students. None of them have any record of my genetic markers or family lineage. It's like I don't match any known human population group." The professor's expression grew stern. "Alex, these are complex matters that require careful investigation by qualified personnel. I suggest you speak with the student counseling office about your concerns rather than disrupting our history lesson with personal questions." Alex felt their face burn with embarrassment, but also with frustration. Around them, other students began to murmur among themselves, casting curious glances in their direction. Their roommate Kai, a young human-like species from the Centauri system, gave them a sympathetic look from across the room. "Now let's return to our discussion of the Great Silence period," Professor Thane said, quickly switching the holographic display to show star charts. After Earth's death, human refugee ships scattered in all directions, leading to the establishment of isolated colonies that had no contact with each other for generations. But Alex was no longer listening. They were thinking about the strange dreams that had been plaguing them for months. Dreams of a world with a single yellow sun, where vast green forests stretched to distant mountains and blue oceans reflected white clouds. dreams of cities that gleamed with clean technology, of humans who looked healthy and confident, of a world that was very much alive. These dreams didn't match any of the colony worlds they had studied. The human settlements they learned about were harsh places, barely habitable worlds where humans struggled to survive with limited resources and aging technology. None of them had the lush environments or advanced cities from Alex's dreams. As the class period ended, Alex gathered their materials slowly, lost in thought. They had always felt different from the other human students they occasionally encountered, but had attributed it to their unusual upbringing as a foundling on an education ship. Now they wondered if there was something more to their mysterious origins. Alex! Kai appeared at their shoulder as students filed out of the classroom. That was intense. I've never seen Professor Thane look so uncomfortable. Did you notice how the other faculty members reacted? Alex asked, slinging their bag over their shoulder. They were all acting like I had said something dangerous. Kai nodded, their bright blue eyes thoughtful. My people have a saying, when the truth threatens the comfortable lie, watch how quickly the lie-tellers reveal themselves. Maybe your question touched on something they don't want discussed. As they walked toward the dormitory section of the ship, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that their simple question had opened a door that someone very much wanted to keep closed. The dreams of the living world felt more real than ever, and for the first time, Alex began to wonder if everything they had been taught about humanity's history might be wrong. That night, Alex lay in their bunk, staring at the ceiling while Kai slept peacefully nearby. Outside their small porthole, the stars wheeled slowly past as the education ship continued its endless journey between systems. But Alex's mind was focused on one particular star, a small yellow sun that featured prominently in their dreams, around which orbited a blue and green world that was supposed to be dead. Tomorrow, Alex decided, they would begin looking for real answers about their origins. Even if those answers led them to places the authorities preferred, they didn't go. 3 weeks had passed since Alex's question disrupted Professor Thane's history class, but the incident had changed everything. Word had spread quickly through the student population about the human who didn't match any refugee colony records. Some students avoided Alex now, as if their questions might be contagious. Others, like Kai, seemed more interested than ever in helping uncover the truth. Late one evening, Alex and Kai huddled together in the ship's vast digital library, surrounded by floating holographic displays showing academic databases and historical archives. The library was nearly empty at this hour, with only a few dedicated students scattered among the towering data stacks. Look at this, Kai whispered, pulling up a restricted file they had managed to access through their engineering credentials. This is from the Galactic Historical Commission, dated about 50 years after Earth's supposed death. It mentions something called Project Terra Shield, but most of the details are classified above our clearance level. Alex leaned closer to read the fragmentary text. Emergency evacuation protocols, population preservation, containment barrier. What does that mean, containment barrier? Why would a dead planet need to be contained? That's not the strangest part, Kai continued, opening another file. I found references to ships that were supposed to evacuate Earth's population, but the passenger manifests don't match the colony records we've been shown. The numbers are all wrong. According to this, they should have evacuated over 8 billion people. But the total population of all known human colonies is maybe 200 million. Alex felt a chill run down their spine. Where did the other 7.8 billion people go? Before Kai could answer, a soft footstep echoed through the quiet library. Both students quickly minimized their displays and pretended to study their regular coursework. A figure approached through the dim lighting between the data stacks, but instead of a faculty member, it was another student Alex didn't recognize. The newcomer was human, probably in their early 20s with short dark hair and intense green eyes. They moved with unusual confidence for a student and seemed to be deliberately staying in the shadows between the light fixtures. "You're Alex," the stranger said quietly. It wasn't a question. "Who's asking?" Alex replied, instinctively protective of their research. "Someone who's been looking for people like you for a long time." The stranger glanced around to make sure they weren't being observed. "My name is River. I was found as an infant, too, with no colony records and no explanation for my existence. But unlike you, I've learned to keep my questions to myself." Kai looked between Alex and River with growing excitement. "There are others?" River nodded grimly. "More than you might think. We call ourselves the Lost Ones, humans with no past, no documentation, and memories that don't match what we've been taught about our history." River sat down carefully, still watching the library entrances. "Most of us learned early to stop asking questions. Those who don't learn tend to disappear." "Disappear?" Alex felt their blood run cold. "What do you mean, disappear?" "Transferred to other ships, sent to remote colony postings, assigned to hazardous research missions. The authorities have subtle ways of removing troublesome students without causing alarm." River's expression was serious. "But your question in Professor Thane's class has created an opportunity. For the first time, someone has asked the dangerous question in public, and people are starting to talk." Over the next hour, River shared what they had learned during years of careful investigation. There were inconsistencies everywhere in the official histories, dates that didn't match up between different archives, references to Earth-based communications that supposedly continued decades after the planet's death. Most disturbing of all, there were sealed files that mentioned ongoing monitoring protocols for the Sol system. Why would they need to monitor a dead system? Alex asked, though they were beginning to suspect the answer. "Because it's not dead," River said simply. "I think Earth is still there, still alive, and for some reason, the Galactic Council wants everyone to believe otherwise." The three students spent hours poring over the fragments of information they could access. The more they discovered, the more questions arose. Why were human colonies kept isolated from each other? Why were they all struggling with limited technology, when pre-collapse Earth had been described as highly advanced? Why did none of the colony worlds match the descriptions of humanity's original industrial and scientific capabilities? As the artificial night cycle deepened, Alex began experiencing another of their strange dreams, even while awake. Flashes of memory that felt more real than their current surroundings. A laboratory filled with humans working on projects that seemed far more advanced than anything they had seen in the colonies. Cities that stretched beyond the horizon, powered by clean energy sources. Most vivid of all, the image of a great barrier in space, shimmering like a soap bubble around an entire solar system. "Alex?" Kai's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Alex, you're having another episode." Alex blinked, finding themselves back in the library with River and Kai staring at them with concern. But the memories lingered, more vivid than ever before. "I saw it," Alex whispered. "The barrier River mentioned, it's real. It's around the whole Sol system, hiding Earth from the rest of the galaxy." River leaned forward intently. "You remember it? Actually remember it?" "I think so. But that's impossible, right? I'm only 19. I couldn't have memories from before I was born." "Unless," River said slowly, "you weren't born in the colonies at all. Unless you somehow came from inside the barrier." The implications of that possibility hung in the air like a challenge to everything they thought they knew about reality. If Alex really did come from Earth, if the planet was still alive and thriving, then everything they had been taught was a lie of staggering proportions. "We need more information," Kai said practically. "But we're not going to find it in the student databases." River nodded. "There are others who might help. Faculty members who ask too many questions, researchers who've been reassigned for investigating the wrong topics. There's an informal network of people who suspect the truth. How do we contact them? Alex asked. Carefully, River replied. Very carefully. Because if we're right about Earth, then the people maintaining this lie have resources and authority we can barely imagine. And they've already proven they're willing to make people disappear to protect their secret. As they prepared to leave the library, Alex felt the weight of their discovery settling on their shoulders. They had started with a simple question about their own origins, but now they were facing the possibility that the entire foundation of galactic civilization might be built on a lie. The dreams of the living world were calling stronger than ever, and Alex was beginning to understand that finding the truth about their past might require them to challenge the most powerful forces in the known galaxy. The maintenance tunnel beneath the education ship's lower decks was not a place students were supposed to be. Alex crawled through the narrow space, following River's whispered directions, while Kai brought up the rear with a portable light. The air was thick with the smell of recycled atmosphere and machine oil, and every sound seemed amplified in the metal confines. There, River pointed to a barely visible hatch marked with maintenance codes. Dr. Nova's workshop. She's been hiding down here for 3 years, ever since she asked too many questions about atmospheric composition readings from the Sol system. The hatch opened to reveal a woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and intelligent brown eyes that seemed to catalog everything they saw. Her workshop was cramped but organized, filled with scientific equipment that looked far more advanced than anything Alex had seen in the regular laboratories above. "So you're the student who's been causing all the excitement," Dr. Nova said, gesturing for them to sit on makeshift chairs fashioned from storage containers. "River told me about your question in Professor Thane's class. Very dangerous question, but also very necessary." "Dr. Nova," Alex began, "we've found inconsistencies in the historical records about Earth. References to projects and monitoring systems that shouldn't exist if the planet really died 300 years ago." The older woman smiled grimly. "Inconsistencies. That's a polite way to describe the biggest lie in galactic history." She activated a small device that created a privacy field around their group, blocking any potential surveillance. "What I'm about to tell you could get us all killed or worse, but I think it's time someone knew the truth." Dr. Nova had been a xeno-atmospheric scientist specializing in planetary recovery systems. 5 years ago, she had been assigned to study long-term atmospheric data from various systems, including routine readings from automated probes throughout the galaxy. What she discovered in the Sol system readings didn't match a dead world. The atmospheric composition of Earth shows active biological processes, she explained, pulling up holographic displays of her data. Oxygen levels consistent with a thriving ecosystem, carbon dioxide patterns that indicate massive plant respiration, even trace gases that only come from advanced industrial processes using clean technology. Alex stared at the readings, their heart racing. "You're saying Earth is not only alive but thriving?" "More than thriving. Based on these readings, Earth's biosphere is healthier now than it was during humanity's pre-space period. Someone has not only prevented the ecological collapse, they've reversed it completely." Kai leaned forward, studying the data with their engineer's eye for detail. "But why would the Galactic Council lie about this? What would they gain by keeping humanity scattered and isolated?" Dr. Nova's expression darkened. "Control and fear. You see, when Earth was supposedly dying, humanity was on the verge of several breakthrough technologies that would have changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Quantum manipulation, consciousness transfer, faster-than-light communication, energy systems that could power entire star systems with minimal resources. "The Council was afraid of human technology?" River asked, terrified. The established galactic civilizations had reached a comfortable equilibrium where each species had their role and their limitations. Humanity was advancing too fast, asking, Too many questions, pushing boundaries that others wanted to keep intact. Dr. Nova activated another display showing star charts. So they made a deal with Earth's government. Quarantine the planet, hide its existence, scatter the excess population as refugees, and maintain the balance of galactic power. Alex felt pieces clicking into place in their mind. But some people escaped the quarantine. Children who were somehow taken out before the barrier was fully established. Exactly. You're what we call breach children. Infants who were removed from Earth during the final phase of the quarantine process. Your memories were suppressed with alien technology, but the suppression isn't permanent. The older you get, the more your original memories begin to surface. The dreams of blue skies and advanced cities suddenly made sense. They weren't dreams at all, but recovering memories of the world where Alex had actually been born. A world that was supposed to be dead, but was actually more alive than any place they had seen since. "How many of us are there?" Alex asked. "We estimate around 50,000 breached children scattered throughout the galaxy. Most never recover their memories fully. Others, like you and River, begin to remember and start asking dangerous questions." River spoke up. "Dr. Nova, what happened to the humans who stayed on Earth? Are they prisoners?" The scientist shook her head. "From what we can determine, they're living freely on their homeworld, but completely cut off from the rest of the galaxy. The quarantine barrier prevents all communication and travel in both directions. They probably think the rest of humanity died in some galactic disaster." Alex stood up, pacing in the small space. "So there are billions of humans living on a restored Earth, thinking they're alone in the universe, while millions of their descendants struggle in refugee colonies, thinking their homeworld is dead. And the Galactic Council maintains this lie because they're afraid of what humanity might accomplish if they were reunited with their technological base," Dr. Nova confirmed. "We have to do something," Kai said firmly. "We have to expose the truth." Dr. Nova's expression grew cautious. "Exposing the truth won't be enough. The Council has too much power and too much invested in maintaining the current system. We would need proof that couldn't be dismissed or suppressed. And we would need a way to actually reach Earth to verify what we suspect." "Is that possible?" Alex asked. "Can the quarantine barrier be breached?" "Theoretically, yes. The barrier is maintained by a network of stations positioned around the Sol system. If enough of those stations were disabled simultaneously, the barrier would collapse. But reaching those stations would require ships and resources far beyond what any refugee colony possesses." River was quiet for a moment, then spoke slowly. "Unless we could convince some of the colonies to work together. Pool their resources for a single mission to investigate the Sol system. The colonies don't even know each other exist," Kai pointed out. "The Council keeps them isolated deliberately." Alex felt something crystallizing in their mind, a plan that seemed to come from memories they were still recovering. "Then we tell them. We find a way to contact the human colonies, share what we've learned, and organize them into a unified effort to discover the truth about Earth." Dr. Nova looked at the young people gathered in her workshop, and for the first time in years, hope flickered in her eyes. "It would be incredibly dangerous. The Council has agents throughout the galaxy, and they've proven they're willing to eliminate threats to their control." "More dangerous than living a lie for the rest of our lives?" Alex asked. "More dangerous than letting billions of humans remain separated from their true home?" The older woman smiled, and Alex saw something of the scientist she had been before being forced into hiding. "No, I suppose it's not more dangerous than that. And if you really are from Earth, if your memories are authentic, then you might know things about human capabilities that could make such a mission possible." As they prepared to leave Dr. Nova's workshop, Alex felt the weight of responsibility settling on their shoulders. They had started with a simple question about their own origins, but now they were planning to challenge one of the fundamental lies that shaped galactic civilization. The dreams of the living world were no longer just memories. They were becoming a destination, the cargo bay of the merchant vessel. Wandering Star hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 12 different human colonies gathered in secret. Alex stood near the center of the room, hardly believing that their simple question in a history class had led to this moment. 6 months of careful planning, coded messages, and dangerous meetings had brought together the largest gathering of humans in over a century. Captain Wren, a weathered trader from the Altair Commonwealth, served as their host. The alien had risked everything by agreeing to transport the colony representatives to this neutral meeting point in an abandoned asteroid field. Their species had once been oppressed by the same galactic powers that now controlled humanity's fate, and they understood the cost of silence. "The readings Dr. Nova showed us are conclusive," announced Dr. Kim from the Proxima settlement, holding up a data pad containing the atmospheric analysis from Earth. "Our homeworld is not dead. Everything we've been taught is a lie," murmurs rippled through the assembled group. These were leaders and scientists from colonies scattered across dozens of star systems, people who had spent their lives believing they were the last remnants of a dying species. The truth was almost too large to accept. "But how do we prove it to the galaxy?" asked Commander Torres from the harsh mining colony on Kepler Prime. "The Galactic Council controls all the major communication networks and trade routes. Even if we could reach Earth, who would believe us?" Alex stepped forward, feeling the strange certainty that had been growing stronger as their memories returned. "We don't need to convince the galaxy at first. We need to convince Earth." River, now recognized as a leader among the Breach children, activated a holographic display showing the Sol system. Alex has been recovering more memories. They remember details about the quarantine barrier that matched Dr. Nova's theoretical models perfectly. The recovered memories were becoming clearer every day. Alex could see the barrier stations in their mind, massive structures positioned at the edge of the solar system like sentinels. More importantly, they remembered conversations about the barrier's weakness, discussions among Earth's scientists about how it could be temporarily breached for emergency communication. "The barrier network has 3 primary control stations," Alex explained, pointing to positions on the holographic display. "If we can disable them simultaneously, the barrier will collapse for approximately 6 hours before automated systems can restore it." Dr. Nova, who had emerged from hiding to help plan the mission, nodded approvingly. 6 hours would be enough to establish quantum communication with Earth and send a data burst containing everything we've learned about the scattered colonies. "And what makes you think Earth would help us?" asked Dr. Patel from the agricultural colony at Wolf 359. "For all we know, they agreed to the quarantine willingly. Maybe they want to stay isolated." Alex felt another surge of returning memory, this one filled with pain and determination. "They didn't agree. The quarantine was imposed against their will, and they've been working for 3 centuries to find a way through it. If we can show them where their lost children ended up, they'll move heaven and earth to bring us home." Captain Wren spoke up from their position near the bay entrance. "I've been monitoring galactic communications for signs of increased security activity. The Council knows something is happening. They're moving ships into positions around several human colonies." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Their secret meetings hadn't been as secret as they hoped. "How long do we have?" Commander Torres asked grimly. "Days, maybe weeks," Wren replied. "Once they start implementing full communication blackouts, organizing any kind of coordinated action will become impossible." Dr. Kim stood up, their expression resolute. "Then we do this now. Today, each colony commits their fastest ships and most advanced technology to a simultaneous strike on the barrier stations." "It's a suicide mission," protested Dr. Patel. "Those stations are heavily defended. Even if we succeed in disabling them, the Council will hunt down everyone involved." Alex felt memories stirring again, knowledge they hadn't known they possessed. "The stations aren't as heavily defended as you think. The Council never expected humans to organize or develop the technology needed to reach them. They've relied on secrecy and isolation instead of military might. River pulled up detailed schematics that seemed to flow directly from Alex's recovering memories. Here are the weak points in each station's design. Small teams with the right equipment could disable the barriers without engaging in direct combat. Over the next few hours, they planned the most audacious operation in human history. Ships from 12 colonies would coordinate their movements to reach the 3 barrier stations simultaneously. Each team would carry quantum communicators provided by Dr. Nova, allowing them to maintain contact despite the vast distances involved. Alex would lead the mission to the primary control station, accompanied by Kai and a small technical team. River would take the secondary station with volunteers from the outer colonies. The third station would be handled by Captain Wren and a mixed crew of humans and sympathetic aliens. Remember, Dr. Nova addressed the assembled group as they prepared to return to their ships. We're not just trying to contact Earth. We're trying to reunite a species that's been deliberately kept apart for centuries. If we succeed, everything changes. If we fail, at least we'll fail trying to tell the truth, Alex said. That's more than any of us have been able to do for the past 300 years. As the meeting dispersed and representatives returned to their colonies to begin preparations, Alex stood with Kai and River in the empty cargo bay. The weight of what they were about to attempt seemed enormous, but so did the possibility of finally coming home. "Are you really sure about this?" Kai asked quietly. "About Earth wanting to help us?" Alex closed their eyes and let the recovered memories flow freely. Images of massive construction projects in Earth's orbit, of ships being built in hidden shipyards, of humans working tirelessly on technologies that could challenge the greatest powers in the galaxy. Most clearly of all, the memory of voices saying the same thing over and over again. "Find our children. Bring them home." "I'm sure," Alex said, opening their eyes with new determination. "They've been waiting for us to come back. They've been preparing for this moment since the day the barrier went up." 3 days later, ships began departing from human colonies across the galaxy, all heading toward the same destination they had been taught to consider dead and forbidden. In the depths of space, humanity was finally coming home. The first thing Alex saw through the view screen was impossible. Earth hung before them like a jewel against the black of space, but this was not the dead world from their history books. Vast green continents were visible beneath swirling white clouds. Blue oceans sparkled in the light of the sun. And most amazing of all, the planet was surrounded by a network of orbital structures that defied everything they thought they knew about human technology. "Quantum communication established with Earth Central," Kai announced from the communication station, their voice filled with awe. "They're responding on multiple channels simultaneously. Alex, I think you should hear this." The voice that filled. Their ship's bridge was warm, familiar, and spoke with an accent that resonated deep in Alex's recovering memories. "Unknown vessel. This is Director Lane of Earth Defense Command. We've been waiting for this call for over 300 years. Please identify yourselves and your mission." Alex took a shaky breath before responding. "Earth Central, this is Alex, speaking for the lost colonies of humanity. We're your children, coming home." The pause that followed lasted only seconds, but felt like an eternity. When the voice returned, it carried emotions that transcended the vast distance between them. "Alex, this is Director Lane. I'm going to transfer you to someone who's been waiting to speak with you for a very long time." The next voice that came through the communicator was older, filled with a mixture of joy and sorrow that made Alex's heart race. "My dear child, this is Dr. Santos, head of the Colonial Recovery Project. We never gave up hope that some of you would find your way home." Through tears they didn't realize they were shedding, Alex told Earth about the scattered colonies, the Lies they had been taught, the struggle for survival on harsh worlds while believing their homeworld was dead. In return, Dr. Santos painted a picture of Earth that defied their wildest dreams. The ecological collapse never happened, she explained. We developed the technology to reverse the damage just in time, but the Galactic Council convinced our government that humanity needed to be guided into a more stable role in galactic civilization. The quarantine was supposed to be temporary, just long enough to establish proper boundaries. But it never ended, Alex said, understanding flooding through them. No, it never ended. And when we realized the council never intended to lift it, we began preparing for the day we would have to break it ourselves. We've spent 3 centuries developing technology and resources specifically designed to challenge the galactic power structure that has kept us imprisoned. On the view screen, Earth was growing larger as their ship approached. Alex could now see that the orbital structures were not just stations, but massive shipyards where vessels of unprecedented design were being constructed. The planet itself showed signs of careful restoration, with cities that gleamed like crystals set among vast forests and pristine waterways. "How many of us are down there?" Kai asked. 14 billion, Dr. Santos replied simply. "We never stopped growing, never stopped learning, never stopped preparing, and we never stopped looking for our lost children." The reunion with Earth was everything Alex had dreamed and more than they had dared hope. The planet's technology had advanced far beyond what the scattered colonies possessed, but it had been developed with a specific purpose, creating a civilization that could stand against the forces that had separated humanity from itself. Within hours of the barrier falling, ships began launching from Earth's hidden orbital facilities. Not weapons of war, but vessels of liberation, each one capable of reaching distant colonies and establishing permanent quantum communication links that no external force could block. The revolution that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was not violent or destructive, but it was utterly unstoppable. Human colonies that had struggled in isolation for centuries suddenly found themselves connected to a thriving homeworld and to each other. Advanced technology flowed freely between Earth and the colonies, while the colonies shared the hard-won wisdom they had gained from surviving in hostile environments. The Galactic Council's response was swift but ultimately futile. When they moved to suppress the human colonies by force, they discovered that Earth had spent 3 centuries preparing for exactly that possibility. The same technology that had restored the planet's biosphere had also created defensive systems that made direct assault impossible. More importantly, the revelation of the lie about Earth's death sparked questions among other species about what else the Council might be hiding. Long-suppressed civilizations began to speak out, demanding answers about their own histories and limitations. Alex stood in the observation deck of the Earth Orbital Station 6 months after their homecoming, watching ships arrive and depart on missions of reunification. Humans were returning to Earth by the millions, but others were choosing to remain in their adopted homes, now connected but no longer isolated. Kai joined them at the viewing window, both of them still amazed by the reality of their situation. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't asked that question in Professor Thane's class?" Alex smiled, thinking of all the humans who were still out there, still discovering that they weren't alone, still learning that their true home had never been dead. Someone else would have asked it eventually. The truth was too big to stay hidden forever. River appeared beside them, carrying a data pad with the latest reports from the colonies. "Dr. Nova sends her regards from the Centauri system. She's helping establish the new research stations there. Apparently, she's discovered 3 more species that were told lies about their homeworlds being destroyed." The scope of the Council's deception was still being uncovered, but one thing was clear. Humanity's question had opened a door that could never be closed again. The comfortable lies that had maintained galactic stability were crumbling, and in their place, something new and more honest was emerging. "What's next for us?" Kai asked. Alex looked out at the stars, no longer seeing distant points of light, but potential homes for humanity's continued growth and exploration. The dreams of a living world had become reality, but they had also become the foundation for something even greater. Now we explore, Alex said simply. Not as refugees or exiles, but as ourselves. We find the other lost species. We ask the questions that need to be asked, and we make sure no one else has to wonder where they really come from. The galaxy was a much larger and more complex place than any of them had realized, but for the first time in 300 years, humanity was free to explore it as themselves rather than as the scattered remnants of a supposedly dead world. And in the end, that made all the difference.